الإسلام، خصوصا سيد الشهداء، صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
للتعجيل الفرج أعلى أصواتكم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعجل فرجهم. باسمك العظيم العظام العز الأجل الأكرم، يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب، ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحيات والإكرام على أشرف الأنبياء سيدنا ونبينا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا مولانا أبي القاسم محمد مصطفى صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وصل على أئمة المسلمين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا سيدة النساء وشهيد كربلاء سيد الشهداء، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فقد قال حسين عليه السلام: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هذا ما أوصي به حسين بن علي بن أبي طالب إلى أخيه محمد معروف بن حنفية أن الحسين يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله جاء بالحق من عند الحق، وأن الجنة والنار حق، والساعة آتية لا ريب فيها، وأن الله يبعث من في قبوره، وأني لم أخرج أشقا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا ولا ظلمان، إنما خرجوا لطلب الإصلاح في أمتي جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أريد أن أمر بالمعروف ونهي عن المنكر وسيرا بسير جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب، فمن قبلني بقبول الحق فالله أولى بالحق، ومن رد علي هذا ومن أصبر حتى يقضي الله بيني وبين القوم بالحق. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, every year, firstly, I would like to thank you all for being here. It's a great opportunity, and I'd like to give condolences to the Imam of our time, to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the martyrdom of our dear mother, Lady Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha, and Sayeda al-Shuhada. It's a great honor being here to serve the community of Hussein, to serve the Shia of Hussein, to serve those muhibbeen of Hussein. Brothers and sisters, let me ask you this. For how many years have we commemorated Muharram? You know, it's been more than 1,300 years since Tashayyu was established. 1,300 years, 1,300. Let that number register in your mind. We come here, we cry for Allah, we come here and commemorate these majalis. For what? oftentimes, like naturally, if I were to tell you, brother, you leave Masjid al-Rasul today, you get home, and you're about to go to sleep, as soon as you get home, you die. Half of you will beg to stay in this masjid that night. Allah, if I tell you that if you drive the car tonight, by the way, this won't happen, this is just a hypothetical scenario. If you drive tonight, on your way home, na'udhu you'll get into an accident. How many of you will ask for someone else's ride? Right? Pretty much all of us. I wouldn't want to die tonight. Right? Knowing that I have so much ahead of me. Interesting. Brothers and sisters, there are clear narrations where Imam Hussein himself knew that he was going to die in the place of Karbala. But he still went towards Kufa. Why? What was it about the submission of Abi Abdullah that even though he knew he would die, he would still go towards Kufa? What was it that was so important? And luckily, we don't have to think about this one because Imam Hussein gives us the answer himself. And his will to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya, narrated so often, but I want to pay attention to it today. He said, وَإِنِّي لَمْ أُخْرِجْ أَشْرًا وَلَا بَطْرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظُلِمًا. I am not exiting Medina. Why? I'm not exiting because I'm joyful. I'm not exiting arrogantly. I'm not exiting oppressively. I'm not exiting to cause corruption. إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. I'm exiting this holy city that I'm forced to exit to reform the nation of my grandfather, Rasulullah. أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَمَرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهِيَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. I want to command good and forbid the evil. وَسِيرَةْ بِسِيرَ جَدِّي وَأَبِي عَلِيِّ بْنِ أَبِي طَالِبٍ. And I want to establish, the people, seerah means people's actions, or like their traditions. I want to make their traditions like the traditions of Rasulullah, like the traditions of my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Islam, brothers and sisters, the word we want to focus on today is Islam, reform. What does it mean to reform? And what are we trying to reform? Islam, I'm sure you guys have heard the word Muslimin, right? Those who are pious. Why are they considered Muslimin? Because they purify, they reform. They have a sense of reform within them. That's why they're considered Muslimin. So Islam literally means reform. Reform of what? Yeah, because you explain to us what you're trying to reform. في أمة جد رسول الله, the nation of my grandfather Rasulullah. Now I want to pose a logical fallacy here, right? You know it's a fallacy because I'm telling you it's a fallacy. If Imam al-Hussein aimed to revive the nation of Rasulullah, why did he go towards Kufa? You tell me, where was the nation of Rasulullah? The nation of Rasulullah was in Medina, in Mecca, in Hijaz, some parts of Yemen. Where did Kufa come into play? Much after the Prophet. But why did he want to go to Kufa? Why? Wasn't the nation of Rasulullah there? Yeah, Imam Hussein, you're contradicting yourself apparently. If I tell you that I want to host a Houston community gathering, and majority of the people show up from New York, you're going to call me crazy, right? Because this was supposed to be a Houston community gathering, not for the community of New York. Did I fail at my mission? Yeah, because I was supposed to get the Houston community together. If I tell you that the Houston community is hosting a picnic, and all of a sudden brothers from Austin start coming in and finishing the food, how many of you will get upset, right? It's the Houston community picnic. Houston community members are supposed to benefit from it more than any other community. Brothers and sisters, this is an incorrect definition to a community. We may be an apparent community here in Houston, but that's not a real community. Community is a common ideology. It's a common framework. It's a common way of thinking. I tell you, Masjid al-Rasul has a good community. Why is that a good community? Because everyone there thinks in a similar manner. Everyone there associates themselves with this certain ideology that is promoted here. This community has a common framework. So we're trying to reform this common framework. What is a framework? A framework is a particular set of rules and ideologies and ideas that work in order to solve issues, to solve problems. You have a challenge up front. The way you resolve that issue, the way you think through that problem, that situation, that is a framework. That is what your community is based on. So a series of images that go through your minds and thoughts quite literally defines the world outlook or the world framework that you're trying to think from. Every school of thought has one. You say, you give me Ahl Sunnah. Why are they Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Why are they the Jama'ah? Because they have a certain school ideology that everyone abides by. Why are we considered Ahl Tashayyu? Because we have a basic set of frameworks and principles that Ahl Tashayyu abide by. A person's understanding of this world is considered their world outlook or framework. So I'll tell you that you will see, I'll describe a person to you, or you see someone, you see me, and the first impression that you get of me describes how you think about me, or how you look at this world. Our actions stem from this framework. A framework is, and to make this easier, brothers and sisters, imagine this. If you have been to a factory, or if you have seen a factory, or if you know how a factory works, a factory has multiple different machines. Now I want to go to the Blue Bell factory, right? I put milk, I put vanilla, I put sugar cubes, and all of a sudden I'm getting burnt coffee. Who is the problem, the input or the machine? The machine, right? When you're getting a non-desired outcome from the desired causes, it has the thing transporting or making or perfecting those causes has an issue with it. That is an Islamic framework. That is what a framework works like. That processing machine which processes input and gives you a perfect output. Now when a framework has an issue with it, it gives you hot coffee while you put in the ingredients for an ice cream. A machine for an ice cream and a coffee is two different things. That's why you cannot have a Muslim liberal. Why? Because a Muslim has an ideology. A liberal has an ideology. You cannot clash those two. Because those two are two different ideologies. They work completely differently. You cannot say Muslim, feminist. Why? Because a feminist ideology works a certain way, and an Islamic ideology works in a different way. It has a complete different root, it has a complete different outcome than what you're expecting. Hence, when Imam Hussein says he wants to revive his community, he says he wants to take all these different mindsets and ideologies and he wants to filter them. That's what Islam is. He wants to revive them onto one framework, one way of thinking. He wants to make them think the way he needs them to think. And we'll discuss what is that way he needs them to think. This is why we want to call the next 10 nights Reviving the Islamic Ideology. Reviving the Islamic Framework. What is this Islamic framework that we're trying to revive? In tonight's lecture, we want to focus on a few questions. Firstly, can there be more than one correct way of thinking? Second question, if there is only one correct way of thinking, does Islam reject the diversity of thought? Does Islam reject academic discussions like the ones we're having right now? And then we want to question, what is the correct way of thinking? And what framework did Imam Hussein alayhi salam aim to revive? And how is it even relevant to our lives? Firstly, I want to start off with a story. There was once, this story has been narrated so many times in different books, in different narrations, in different books of philosophy. You open Aristotle, you'll see this narration. You open Indian books, you'll see different narration. I want to take you to the origination of the story. There was an Indian god by the name of Buddha. He's very popular in the subcontinent. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. One time his disciples came to him and they said, "Oh Buddha, I see so many different viewpoints. I see so many different perspectives. Some say man is eternal, some say man is soul limited. some say there are millions of gods. What are your thoughts on this? Buddha replies with another story. Kind of breaks the point of the story, right? Buddha replies, there was once an Indian king. There was once an Indian Raj. He told his servant, "Oh servant, bring me 6 blind men." He said, "All right, I'll bring you 6 blind men." He brought the 6 blind men. They were born blind. He said, "Do you need anything else?" He's like, "Yes, I do need something else. Bring me an elephant." He brought the elephant too. Now, keep in mind, these people have never seen an elephant, right, in their whole entire life. So these people, he tells them, "Go touch the elephant and tell me what you see." They went, they touched the elephant. The first person, the first blind man, went and touched the elephant, and he said, "Wow, this elephant is so smooth. It's like a wall." The second blind man came. All right, what did he touched the side of the elephant and said, he touched the trunk of the elephant and said, "Wow, how round is this elephant? This elephant's like a snake. This elephant is a snake." The third blind man came and said, and he touched the tusks of the elephant, and he's like, "How sharp is this elephant? This elephant must be a spear." The fourth blind man came and he touched the ear of the elephant, and he was like, "How wide is this elephant? This elephant must be a fan." The fifth blind man came and touched the trunk of the leg of the elephant, and he said, "How tall is this elephant? This elephant must be a tree." And the sixth blind man came and touched the tail of this elephant and said, "How thin? This elephant must be like a rope." Point being, each of them had an argument afterward. "No, this elephant is like this. No, this elephant is like this. No, this elephant is like this." And then the Raja came and said, "You're all wrong. This elephant is tall, at the same time it's short, at the same time it's wide, at the same time it's sharp, at the same time it has all of these qualities." Unfortunately, brothers and sisters, this is the case of us living in the West. This is how this conversation becomes relevant to us now. Whether we think about it or not, whether we contemplate it or not, the philosophy that we're being taught in our schools today, the way we're being taught to think, has led us exactly to this. Right? We have been told that there is relativity in truth. Truth is subjective. Truth is the way you think truth is. Truth is the way I think truth is. That is truth to me. You can't argue with me in that regard, because I believe in this and no one else is correct in my opinion. Everyone else is wrong. In my opinion, the way I think is the only correct way. At the end of the day, they have to make a reconciliation. So a philosopher by the name of Immanuel Kant came, and he said, "Hold on a minute, none of you are right. Truth, you can never understand the way things are. Things are so ambiguous, you can never understand the way things are. You can only understand it to your best of your abilities, and once you understand that, that is your reality, that is your truth." This founded a world, a school of thought that has been taught to us from childhood, living here in the West, from our TV shows, from our cartoons, from our movies. We have been taught of this concept of postmodernism. Some of you might be hearing this name for the first time. I've never been taught this. Yes, this has been embedded into your minds. This is how we think in the West, living here. This is the system, the judicial system, the government system, every single system that has been founded in the West has been founded on this philosophy. And I want you guys to look at this philosophy and tell me, you living in the West, do you accept such a concept? You as a Husseini here in the West, can we accept such a concept? They say that they claim that the truth is relative, it's subjective to each other. There is no such thing as morality. Morality is ethics now. Ethics is when I see something and the society tells me it's wrong, it's wrong. It doesn't matter if it's actually wrong or not. It doesn't matter if in reality it has an essence of being wrong or not. In my opinion, it's wrong, hence it's wrong. Right? So there's no concept of truth left. Truth is just something that you can interpret. There's no absoluteness to it. He considers me a bad person. He considers me a good person. I'm both. Who can say I'm a bad person? Who can say I'm a good person? Who has this authority? They got stuck at this question. So they said, there's no such thing as truth. Now we want to discuss, is there a truth out there? Yes. Brothers and sisters, whether you like it or not, whether you comprehend it or not, there is a truth out there. Me and you are existent. There is an existence out there. Even suppose in the worst case scenario, this is all a dream. For there to be a dream, there must be a reality to it. For there to be non-existence, there must be a concept of existence out there. Hence, there is a such thing as truth. Hence, there is a such thing as reality. What is the scale of distinguishing this is truth and falsehood? Brothers and sisters, logic, thinking, aql, Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us intellect. Why has He given us intellect? So that we can get the information that we're given and process it and distinguish whether it's true or false. This is the basicness of aql. And this concept of Western philosophy has completely denied it. And then we want to ask, is it possible for something to be true and false at the same time? You tell me, brothers and sisters. Is it possible for something? No, of course not. Why? Because can there be a contradiction in existence? If there is reality, can non-existence also exist? No. There's no such thing as falsehood. In true essence, everything has reality to it. Me and you have a reality to it. And that is there. The falsehood is just an illusion. If you see me as a very pious person, that is just an illusion. My reality is different from that. Brothers and sisters, last question. Is it possible for truth to develop? Is it possible for 2 plus 2 to equal 5? No. Truth cannot develop. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. Hence, that reality within you has already reached its full potential and you have yet to unlock it. The concept of relativism hence is self-refuting. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Truth is only one. Hence, there's only one correct way of understanding it. So now we have established that there's only one correct way of thinking. There's only one correct way of understanding. There are no 2 correct ideas. We have established that, right? Now we want to see, does Islam reject diversity of thought? Does Islam reject intellectual and academic discussion? Now that we have understood that there is only one correct way of understanding truth, how can we have academic discussion? How can we have different opinions? Brothers and sisters, let me ask you, doesn't Ayatollah Khamenei's opinion differ from Ayatollah Sistani's opinion in some matters? Yes, of course. Doesn't Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi's opinion differ from Ayatollah Jawadi Amuni's opinion at times? Yes, of course. Brother, didn't you just say Islam is one? Didn't you just say the truth is one? Can both manhaj be correct? If both manhaj are not correct, why am I following them in the first place? Right? To understand this better, before this creates more doubts in our mind, you have to understand this important concept. In the Quran, in the Muharram of the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a few words. The first word is deen. Deen means religion. Religion. Has it ever been pluralized in the Quran? Never. Iman. Iman means faith. Has faith ever been pluralized in the Quran? Never. You don't see imans in the Quran, like in the Arabic sense of course. Has Islam ever been pluralized in the Quran? No. Islam has always remained singular. Has haqq ever been pluralized in the Quran? No. The truth, haqq means truth, has never been pluralized in the Quran. Has sirat, a path, the correct path, ever been pluralized in the Quran? No, sirat and haq and Islam and deen has never been pluralized in the Quran. So how can we understand my opinion is better than his, or this opinion is more correct than that opinion? How can we support the idea of intellectual diversity, intellectual thought, when there's only one correct thought? Brothers and sisters, there are two principles in Islam: logic and al-wahy. Logic is the way, as we discussed, the way you think, the correct way of thinking. If there is no logic in your argument, your argument is already thrown out of an academic discussion. There's no thought for there to be diversity of thought, in your opinion. And then there's wahy. Brothers and sisters, wahy is the connection between us, logic, and the truth. To understand correct logic, you must have wahy. To understand wahy, you must have correct logic. So anything that clearly contradicts what God in the Quran says, or what the Ahlul Bayt have said in authentic riwayat, or what your logic dictates, that is automatically thrown out of the religion of Islam and academic discussions, because that has no place left in our discussions. That shouldn't have any place left in our discussion. We shouldn't be discussing whether this religion is correct or that religion is correct when it clearly contradicts the principles of logic, when it clearly contradicts the principles of wahy. Brothers and sisters, but unfortunately in today's time, due to the lack of the access to the Imam of the time, we don't have a holistic understanding of the truth. We don't have a holistic understanding of the wahy that God revealed to me and you. That is why, on the day of judgment, if you come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, "Oh Allah, this marja' told me to do this, hence I did it," this is my excuse. Allah will excuse you and that marja'. Unless that thing of the marja' contradicted what? Logic and wahy. If there is a marja' telling you to do something that contradicts wahy, disregard it. Doesn't matter how much you have studied in the house, disregard it. If I tell you to do something that is in contradiction, clear contradiction to logic or wahy, you disregard it. It doesn't have anything to do with the truth. That is why it is very important to revive this Islamic ideology within us, so that we understand truth holistically, so that we can understand what is truth and what is falsehood in the world where truth and falsehood have been blurred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Muharram of his kitab, in Surah Al-Imran, he says in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna ad-Deen 'inda Allah al-Islam. Indeed, the only religion in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islam. Hence, your practice should only match with that, because that is the path which will prevent you from going into delusion, Now, brothers and sisters, I want to ask you, what was... please recite Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we have discussed why Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam made it clear that he needed to reform the Ummah, so that he could establish the truth. But what was he going to reform the Ummah on? What does the Ummah need to learn? What does the Ummah not have that it used to have that needs to be reformed? Brothers and sisters, this is where the message for you and I comes in. The framework of the nation of Rasulullah was the same framework that he established during his caliphate. What was that framework? Everything is seen through the lens of dependency. Everything is dependent to the higher being. Nothing, including myself, including you, including every brother and sister, every atom of this creation, of this universe, every millisecond of my existence is dependent upon a higher power, whether I like it or not. That is the Islamic framework, where everything is seen through the this lens. Why? Because God sees it that way. And only He can see it that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees everything this way. And how do we know this? Because in the Quran He says, Ya ibadi, Ya ibadi, Ya ibadi, alladhi asrafu ala anfusihim. For example, my servant, my servant, my servant. He always addresses you by my servant. When do we say in Salah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Abd, servant, and worship comes before prophethood. Interesting. So everything in this world is seen as a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God literally means ilah. In Arabic, God is ilah. It literally means ma'bud, someone who is deserving of worship, someone who is constantly being worshipped, someone who is constantly being served by every single particle on this earth. That is ilah. And because of that dependency that everyone has on Him, He knows best what is for everyone. And that is why He's known as Al-Haq, the absolute truth. Worshiping God is surrendering the way I think about things, surrendering the way I think about Hassan, the way I think about Ja'far, to the way God thinks about Hassan, to the way God thinks about Ja'far, to the way God thinks about all of you, including myself. Not the way I like to think about myself, no, the way God thinks about me. That's what really matters. Why? Because everything God thinks about, everything God intends, it becomes reality. Why? In the Muharram of the Kitab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Mubarak Al-Yasin says, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. Anything He thinks about, it becomes reality. Hence there is no delusion when He thinks. He doesn't think about anything that is non-existent. Everything He thinks about becomes that reality that everything serves. So brothers and sisters, that was the framework that Imam Hussein alayhi salam aimed to revive. Idealism, this Western philosophy that we're growing up under, it tells us that the way I see is the way it is. The philosophy of Tawheed tells us, no, the way you see things, you have a very limited outlook as a human being. But the way God sees things, that's the way things are supposed to be seen. And that is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states, Anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Muhammad is my prophet, no one has the right to come and say, no, I think differently. I have a different opinion. When Muhammad Rasulullah says, Ali ibn Abi Talib is the Imam, is my successor, is the spiritual leader of the community, no one, and I mean no one, has the authority to come and say, no, I think differently. Where is this said? Rasulullah clearly stated, it's reported in Bukhari, it's reported in Muslim, it's reported in so many Ahl Sunnah books. يا علي أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لست نبي بعدي. Oh Ali, you are to me like Harun was to Musa, except that there is no prophet after me. وأنت خليفة من كل مؤمن بعدي. And you are the caliph for all the believers after me. No one can now come and object to this and say, no, I think this person should be caliph. No, I think this other person should be caliph. No. Zilch, zero. And the Prophet gets this exactly from Allah. The Prophet doesn't speak anything except God had revealed it to him. So this essentiality to the word of the Prophet being the word of God, or the word of the Prophet being connected to God, is because of the establishment of the Islamic ideology. Why is it the case that when Hassan says something, Ali would have said the same thing in his case, Imam Hassan, Imam Ali. If Imam Hussein says something, Imam Hassan, Imam Ali, the Prophet ﷺ would have said the exact same thing, word by word in his situation. Why is that the case? Because, and it goes for all the 14 Masumi, because they were able to understand this Islamic ideology to its totality. They were able to comprehend it, they were able to understand it and take it in within them. They made themselves Tawheedi people. That is why everything they said was wahi. It wasn't from their own whims and desires. It was what God had said in their situation. It was what they would have said in the situation of another Imam. And that is why it's so important, brothers and sisters, if we want to be godly beings, if we want to be human beings living a godly life, we have to understand and revive Islamic ideology. And this is also why Mahdaviism, this is also why Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is so confident when he has to say the words, he says, إِنَّمَا خَرَجُوا لِطَلَبِ الْإِسْلَامِ. When he's writing his book to Muhammad Hanafiyah, he linked the mission statement of his mission with the truth. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, inna jannata wa nar. He makes the mission statement of his mission linked to the truth. And that's why he's so confident when he says, فَمَنْ أَمَلَنِي بِقَبُولِ الْحَقِّ. Someone who has accepted me in truthful acceptance, فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِالْحَقِّ. God deserves the truth better than me. فَمَنْ رَدَّ عَلَيَّ هَذَا أَصْبَرْ حَتَّى يَقْضِيَ اللَّهُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ الْقَوْمِ بِالْحَقِّ. And if anyone rejects me, I will be patient until Allah judges between them and me the truth. So he's linking his message with the truth. And he is the only one, along with the 14 Ma'soom, who can really claim to have the mission linked directly with the truth. And that is why, to revive this Islamic ideology, yes, we try our best. For the next 10 nights, we won't discuss how to do it. But the only person who can actually revive it is the Imam of the time himself. And that is why Mahdaviism is crucial to living a perfect life, to living a God-centric life. Brothers and sisters, before I end this lecture, I know it's almost time. I want to revisit one of the verses, Surah Al-Ahli, and link it with the Musibah of Zahra. We discussed this verse at the beginning. What was the verse? Surah Al-Imran, verse number 19. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ وَمَا خَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمْ عِلْمٌ. The true religion in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islam. If anyone, it was those whom the book came to, the people of the book, the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, they created divisions among themselves. So initially, this was all one religion. They created divisions among themselves. And after knowledge had came to them, and those who disbelieve, tell them that the accounting of Allah is swift. Allah will account for them soon. So for those who made hostility among themselves, brothers and sisters, unfortunately, after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, this was the case. People of Ahlul Kitab made a hostility amongst themselves for their own purposes, for their own gains. Let's revisit history through this Tawheedi mindset, through understanding things the way God understands things. God appointed Ali ibn Abi Talib as Caliph for Rasulullah. What did they do? They went to Saqifa and they were like, I don't care what God has to say, I will follow the way I need to follow. My truth is different from the truth of God. That's what they said. That was their mindset. That's why they went to Saqifa and selected a different caliph. And that is why all of these atrocities happened to the Ahlul Bayt afterwards. That is why it became necessary for someone like Hussein ibn Ali to revive this Islamic ideology and identity. Brothers and sisters, take yourselves to Medina to Munawwara. Turn the compasses of your hearts there. Sallallahu alayhi ya bint Rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, I'm sure you have mothers. I'm sure we have mothers in the audience here. I'm sure we all have mothers. A lot of us are also married. Take yourself. Imagine the situation with your most beloved in your family. Your mother, your sister, your daughter. They came to the house of Rasulullah. They came to the house of Ibn Abi Talib. They said, Ya Ali, get out of this house. I need you to pay allegiance to Abu Bakr. Ali said, no. Go away. They came the second time. They said, Ya Ali, get out of this house now. Look how they spoke with the Imam of their time. Ali said, no, go away. Umar himself came the third time and he said, and this is by the way found in Bukhari, I'm not quoting from Shi'i sources on this one. Ya Ali, come out of the house, otherwise I'll burn this house. They said, Ya Umar, don't you know this is the house of Zahra? He said, Wayne, so what? They said, don't you know this is the house of Ali al-Murtada? He said, Wayne, so what? Brothers and sisters, I'm going to bring a very interesting narration to you. And I want you guys to put yourself in the position of Fatima. For a minute, leave your bodies, leave your mind, travel your soul to Medina. Put yourself in the mind of Sayeda Nisa. This narration is very unique because Sayeda narrates herself. She, in Bihar al-Anwar, is quoted to have said, فَجَمَعُوا حَتَبَا جَزَلَ عَلَى بَابِنَا وَأَتُوا بِالنَّارِ يَحْرِقُنَا. They started breaking the wood to burn the house and to burn us in it. وقفت بعذاتي بابي ونشهدتم بالله وبأبيه أن يكفونا وينصرونا. I stood behind that door and I told them, I bore witness to them in the name of Allah and in the name of the Prophet, and yakufuna, to leave us alone. Why are you bothering us or to help us? Ya Fatima, what happens next? فأخذ عمر سيوتا من يد الكنفور مولاي أبي بكر فضرب بعداده. Omar took the whip of the slave and hit me so hard. He hit me so hard, he bruised me. Brothers and sisters, put yourself in that situation of Lady Zahra. فضربني بيده حتى أنسى قرضي في أذني. I was pregnant and I fell. And he hit me so hard that the earrings fell off of my ear. The heat was put to the fire, the door was put to the fire, and the fire was burning my face. It hurt my face. The fire was hurting my face. They struck me and I felt the pain of childbirth. فجعلني مخاطبا محسنا قتلا بغير جرم. And Muhsin was killed. Ya Ali, what went into you after the demise of Fatima? Just brothers, 2 more lines. Ali was bathing Fatima. He told everyone, be quiet. She requested to be buried in silence. All of a sudden, they heard loud wailing. They're seeing where is this wailing coming from. They see Ali crying. Ya Ali, why are you crying for your wife? Ali said she never showed me her pains and bruises. Ali buried Fatima fi ghasq al-layl, at night time where no one could see what's going on. Brothers and sisters, if you have a wife, put yourself in this situation. The beloved, the husband is burying his beloved. He stands up, he faces the grave of Rasulullah and said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And he reads the most saddest poetry found in history. قد أسترجعت وديعات. The trust has been returned. وَأُخِذَتْ رَحِيلًا. The pledge has been taken. وَأُخِذَتْ Zahra. Zahra, my wife, my beloved, has been taken away from me. فَمَا أَقْبَى حَمْدًا وَحُزْنًا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What has been left in this world for me? How ugly is this world from now onward towards me, Ya Rasulullah. فَأَمَّا حُزْنِي فَسَرْمَدْ وَلَيْلِي فَسَمَّدْ. Brothers and sisters, a poet writes, if no one else will mourn you, I'll mourn you alone. Your broken ribs and your burning door. All this love until less of you is known. The tablet and the pen attest to you. The secrets of secrets rested with you.